Okay, so we're going to continue now with Sefer Derech Hashem. We're in Perek Gimel, and we left off after Yud, number 10, Chelek Rishon, Chelek Aleph, and we left off this discussion of the story arc of life, that a person is made of a neshama and a guf. A neshama is something very, very holy and kadosh, and the guf is something, achur and physical, and the purpose of life, of going through life, is for the neshama, or part of the purpose for the neshama to be mizakech the guf. However, because of the ra that's inherent in everybody, there has to be this thing called misa. There has to be this thing called death, and the neshama and the guf have to separate in order for the ra that's mixed in with the guf to break down and leave that physicality. So now he's going to explain to Ramchal, well, what happens in the interim? What happens to the neshama, while that guf is brought into the ground? So this is Yud Aleph 11. Now, the fact that Hashem decreed that there had to be something called misa on a person, and like he explained, v'nimtza shamur kavazet tzarich sheyipared lizman ma, and this connection, this combination of the neshama and the guf has to be together for the beginning, and then has to separate for a period of time, va'achar yashav lizchaber, and then come back together again. In this time of separation, there also has to be an appropriate place for each of the two parts, right? Like he's been explaining throughout, that Hashem set it up for these entities, which is you and me, to go through this whole cycle, to go through this whole process. And the world that we live in, the physical world, and I was explaining aspects as well of the spiritual world, that's what makes up the backdrop. That's what makes up the context, the playing field for where all of this happens. So during the time that the neshama and the guf are together, which is now during the 6,000 years, and now's the time of working, there's going to be a time of separation, which happens anytime somebody dies, and then there's a time of reuniting by Tchias HaMesim. But now, during this time of separation, there also has to be an appropriate place for both the guf and the neshama. Knows that has to be appropriate, an appropriate setting for each of these two components. Right? This is an extremely powerful line, and something that we could learn so much musar from, this concept, if you really think about it, right? But what happens to the guf is, like we explained before, that the guf has to shed all of the ra that is in the guf. The guf has to get rid of all of that ra. So let's start with taking a step back, right? We've heard stories, they say, about the Vilna Gaon. They say about the Noam Elimelech, and other stories about people who their bodies, even many years, dozens or hundreds of years after their death, that their bodies remained still intact, and without having been embalmed or preserved in any way. And this idea that a tzaddik, we know already from Chazal, from Yaakov Avinu, that a tzaddik's guf, doesn't disintegrate in the grave. Right. So what's the idea behind that? I don't know if it's true or not true. I don't know if it's something that the Chazal say about Yaakov, that's why Yosef wanted to do the embalming, right? But anyway, the idea is, when it comes to most people, there's ra that's mixed in with our guf, right? We of course have used our guf for many, many mitzvos over the course of our life, and hopefully we are bakadesh our guf, and like the Ramchal explained, hopefully we're constantly being mezakech our guf and cleansing it, and even our whole life we have yisurim which help us with this, right? However, at the end of the day, this guf that I have, and you can even understand this on a physical level, right? It's made of components, right? Molecules and atoms and all sorts of things, cells, etc. And if parts of me are there's ra that's mixed in with all of that. Now, what does that mean? There's ra mixed in. Well, the easiest way to understand, let's say, is a person who ate not kosher food. So now somehow or another, that not kosher food made its way into this person's system. It's there. So either they could do tshuva for it during their lifetime, and if they can't do tshuva in their lifetime, so then there's that ra, that whatever that essence of not kosher food that remained in their body, so that's going to break down into its constituent parts. Like the Ramchal is explaining over here, that the guf has to break down. The tiparei harkavaso, right? All the connections break apart. The tifasei tsuraso, right? The whole tsura of the guf breaks down, right? Without getting too graphic, right? But that's really what happens when a person goes into the kever. That's a process of the guf shedding the ra and leaving behind whatever was imbued with tov. And since the mice were made of afar, elav yashuv, so we return to it. And it's mamish again, like scientifically speaking, it's mamash really what happens. We return down to our constituent parts, and those parts, when you look at them under a microscope, are then like indistinguishable from the afar, from the dirt, and that's what a person becomes. Right, this is from the time of the Nachash and onwards, from the time that the Nachash, of the Chet of Adam Rishon, and the Ra became an mixed in part of humankind. So then death is mandatory. It has to be, and the Ra parts of the person have to break down and return to dust. Okay, so that's all what happens to the body. However, the neshama, assuming that it was good, right? So now the neshama, again, let's take a good person, a person who was, most good Jews, hopefully, are in this category that, mostly they're mitzvos. They mamish do mostly mitzvos, and yes, we do our averos because, ein adam tzadik ba'aretz asher yasa tov v'lo yechta. We all fit into that category now and then, and so we have the Ra mixed in, right? But those neshamos, those are not like neshamos that need to go to Gehenna and all sorts of things, right? So the guf has to shed that Ra. That's part of the process, but that doesn't mean that the neshama has to go through suffering during that same time, right? We're not talking about the neshama having to suffer. So hine ein la ela tzapos al jiyaser b'guf mashu tzarich la'asos. The guf has to go through this process, and the neshama needs to wait. Dahainu ha'atacha ve'hefsed harishona, right? Barishona, meaning again the guf the neshama needs to give the guf the time to break down. The Hashem be'offer kol azman shetzarich, and to remain as dirt for the amount of time necessary. And then to be rebuilt again and to allow the neshama to re-enter into the guf. However, the neshama needs a place to be in the meantime. It doesn't just go into like a cryo freeze. The neshama has a place to be while the guf is waiting. So again, we're talking about now a type of a situation. Again, he's going to talk about this much later and other things. About gilgulim and coming back again in order to be metakin, what a person needs to do. And he's going to talk also later about the concept of Gehenim, what types of neshamos have to go to Gehenna, but it's not everybody, right? So he's explaining to us, like what are the various processes that happen to a person over this time. So the guf is down now in the ground, breaking down, and there's a place that is made for these neshamos. So for that neshama that's finished its tikkun in the world, it doesn't need to come back down. It doesn't go to Gehenna. It only needs to now wait until Tchias HaMesim. So where does it wait until Tchias HaMesim? Yeah, so so there's a place that's prepared for this. There's a place that's called the Olam Hanashamos. Shebo tikanasana Hanashamos azochos achrei tzesach me'aguf. So this is where the neshamos that finish their job in the world go, and after they separate from the guf, the neshama goes up to this place called, or up sideways, wherever, to a different dimension, whatever that means, to the place of the Olam Hanashamos. V'teshev nasham b'mamko menucha. Kolzman his galgel al aguf inyanim haruim his galgel alav, and the neshama gets to relax and rest and enjoy its time, as it's going to explain. But again, this is not olam haba. This has nothing to do with olam haba. Olam haba is the schar that is going to be forever and ever, the netzach nitzachim, right, for an infinite amount of time, and that is going to be with the neshama together with what's left of the guf, right, the perfected guf, that's olam haba. This is a waiting period. This is going to be like Gan Eden. This is a place where the neshamos go again. They finished their cycle of tikkunim here in the world. Their guf needs some time to break down. The world needs some time till it reaches the stage of Tchias HaMesim. So this neshama now has a place where it is in the meantime. And so all the while that the guf is breaking down and all these things are happening there, the neshama is up in Shemayim in an enjoyable place. Again, it's not a physical thing at all. It's not at all that picture of physical enjoyment or pleasure. He's saying that this is a form of a type of enjoyment that we're going to have eventually. L'netzach nitzachim. It's a form of the type of connection to Hashem and reward that we are going to have then. Meaning, it's a spiritual form, not a physical form at all. Right? However, it's not the same thing. Like we said before. Okay, uh, and uh, and this also again is going to address this much later in the Sefer as well. However, he's explaining to us that at that stage in the Olam Haneshamos, also it's not everybody's going to be on the same place in the same level. The people who did more mitzvos and were greater are going to be on a higher level of closeness to Hashem and enjoyment and whatever that means, and people who did less so. However, again, they're making it into the Gan Eden. They're making it then also the Trias Amazing Rolam Haba. However, they're not on a very high level over there. He's going to talk all about this much more later. But he's just telling us that now also this place, the Olam Neshamos, also there's different madrigos over there, and according to a person's actions, that's what they're going to have over there. And so too at the end, right? But there's no more bechira, there's no more choice, right? Once a person dies, once a person dies, there's no more free will, there's no more choice. Now we're on a track, and that track again in Gan Eden at this stage is the first. The ultimate shleimus that we're going to be zocha to lo yasigu lo aguf lo neshama eli bischarmam shenis achar tchiyah. So that's not something that happens not to the guf by itself, not to the neshama by itself, but only when they join back together again. After tchiyas amesim, that's when the real olam haba is going to be. Okay, so we're continuing now. Understanding the story of how this works. The process of the joining of the guf and the neshama, the process of their separation, what sort of happens during the time of their separation, and then what's going to be when they join back together again. Okay, now he's going to go on and explain how does this help things? We understand that we're giving the neshama a sort of a reward, but again, this is not the ultimate reward. So what role does this place play in the process of what's going on? So he's going to explain that to us right now. And this is Yud Beis 12. V'ulam milvad heyos olam neshamos mokum neshamos l'sheves bo kol zman heyos mitzapos l'guf k'moshe kasav. No, aside for the fact that this olam neshamos is a place for the neshamos to wait all the while that they're waiting for the guf to be ready. Like we said, hine o toeles gadol nimza bo neshamos atzman v'acharei and l'guf. Now, there's another toeles of this place, first to the neshama, and then we're going to see that this toeles carries over to the guf itself. For what's going to be necessary at the next step, which is going to be Tchiyas Amazim. So what is it? What is the benefit to the neshama and then to the guf? Since the decree was made that it is not possible for a person to reach his perfection except after going through death, Af al pi shekvar nira lo mitzad ma'isa vodenu chai, kizula zeh lo haya megio lo me'olam, hare ein zman knias hashleimos ela ba'olam hazeh terem hamaves, ukmoshe kasavdu. Okay, so this is a side point. I'm sorry, the parentheses are a side point. Afal pishvan yirlo mitzad ma'isa vodenu chai od nimshach min gzera zos shaneshama kol zman hayosef baguf b'olam hazeh sharad davik bo she'iyaf shor she'yiparid mimenu legamrei tia gam hi chashucha va'amuma. He's explaining the following. Part of the whole process, part of what happens when the neshama comes down into the body is that the neshama itself ends up being like sort of darkened, like it's chashuch, it gets affected sort of by the ra that's over here. Like on the one hand, it's not a physical thing at all. It has no connection to the physical thing, right? At the same time, the neshama, the whole time that it's here in the guf, in this world, the ra is davokbo in this world, meaning not to the neshama, to this world. You can't, like the neshama, the fact that it's down here, it is affected by the fact that it's in this physical world. So the neshama itself, while it's down here, is negatively affected by this. Okay, so this is like a very interesting idea that again the neshama itself is something connected to the infinite, right? But the fact that it is forced to be down here, right? So it wears it sheds it not sheds off it rubs off onto the neshama. Va'af al pi she'al yedei ha'maisim hatovim she'adam oseh konehi ba'atzma shleimus yikar lo yuchal adavar ligalos lo tuchal yizdaher b'zohar sh'aya roi lo yizdaher. And even though a person might do tons and tons of mitzvos and really good things, right? But like we don't see that over here. That doesn't shine through over here. We don't see it having a physical effect on the goof of a person, on the physical, right? So the neshama, even in a great tzaddik, even in a person who's doing a lot of mitzvos, right? The neshama by definition is just overwhelmed by darkness and unclarity all the time that it's here, and it does not have the ability to shine the way that it should. Right, so the neshama ends up being suppressed. Right, the neshama comes down here, and even though we are adding kedusha to it the whole time with our mitzvos, still the neshama itself is suppressed and is not able to express its full shine, right? It's full, or it's not able to do that until the time that it's going to, right? And again, the neshama itself, if it could, it would shine, right? But it's the guf that does this. It's the guf that gets in the way. And right, the guf doesn't realize that it itself is losing from this, right? That every time we give into our guf, right, our guf tells us, eat this, do this, get this, take this, right? It doesn't realize that it's actually losing when it's telling us to do something wrong, right? That's my Mashrat Ramchal is telling us over here. And it's interesting. I don't want to spend time on this. One of the ways that people learn the Sefer, which the real, from what I understand, the real Nikubalim or the real Talmidei Beis Medrash for the Ramchal feel it's like a misunderstanding of the Sefer, but it's learned as a Musar Sefer, right? And while I'm not commenting on that idea, but there certainly are lines that if a person contemplates and is misbonen and thinks about them and what they really mean, there's a lot of musar available in this sefer. In other words, it's a very powerful sefer, and that's what he's saying over here. Right, that we don't realize that every time, that the guf, when we give into the guf, we're the ones who are losing. Right, because the guf is not getting that zikuch, that clarity, that clarification that the neshama can do, right? Because it's doing something else, it's doing something wrong, right? And again, we don't see that happening over here, the zikuch. However, the neshama also loses, so to speak, as a result of this. Right? This whole dynamic forces the neshama to, be mitzamtzem herself and not shine and not show who she really is and not be able to connect to the kedusha like she really, really, wants to, etc. Right? The neshama ends up, so to speak, losing as a result of this. And furthermore, the thicker the guf is, like sort of the harder it is for the neshama, because now not only is the neshama down here in this difficult place, right, but even with Moshe Rabbeinu, the neshama was down here in this difficult place, but at least Moshe Rabbeinu did so many good things and allowed the neshama to do its job of zikuch haguf. So at least that neshama feels a certain satisfaction about being here, in the body of a tzaddik, right? But if a person is down here, so not only are we down here and forcing our neshama, so to speak, to be in this place, right? But we're not even letting it do its thing. We're not even letting it be mizakeh chaguf the way that we could. ואילו הייס הפועלוס עושה, הייס משתלמס בזה שלימוס גודל מצד מהוס הפעולה עצמה, שהיא פעולה שלימוס היא, היוס מיטיב ומשלים זולסו. Right, so the neshama itself, if we're up to the neshama, it would give everything right away. It would be mishtalim everything right away and make everything the full shlemus, because that's what it wants to do. It's so to speak, pula shlemus hi hayos meitiv u'mashlim atzmo. Right, the most that the neshama could do is to be mashlim the guf, and that's the best tov that the neshama could want to do, and v'od shezos hi ha'pa'ula haneosa la lefi tiva v'chuka shelakach notzra. And this is what the neshama is made for. This is what it wants to do. V'chol nivra mishtalim k'shepol mashachachek lo boris baruch shepol sheyifal. Every creation achieves shleimus, achieves perfection when it does what it's put here to do. And since the neshama is here to be mizakech leguf through this process, so when we are preventing the neshama from doing that, right, by not allowing it to be mizakecha, so that's sort of, we're causing a hefset, a loss to the neshama. The chaser mishleimus calls man shelo yifalehu, and then that neshama is lacking even further. Okay, so I'm not going to say it over again, but we saw there's two aspects to the chisaron that the neshama faces. One, just from being here, and two, from our actions that can add on, further lack. However, during this time, let's go back to what we're talking about, the time of separation, when the body goes down underground and starts breaking down, and the neshama goes up to Shemayim, right, or out or wherever, yeah, and now it's in the Olam Neshama. Osine Sham Mispashetes Umizdaheres Bizarela. Now, finally, the neshama is out of that goof, and finally it could shine. It could be itself. Kfi Masharoilo Al Pi Masela, right? And now all the mitzvahs can show themselves, right? All the time that a person is doing mitzvahs. So again, the neshama is kavush in this body. It wants to be able to shine the way that a mitzvah shines, but it's not allowed to over here, right? And now finally it gets a chance to do this. Uvamashi maseges sham calls manayosa sham mischazekes bimashi nischal shabaguf. Oh, so up there it's sort of like the hachlama, like a rehab center for the neshamos. The neshamos like go up there, and now they can be themselves. They've shed the goof. Now they can shine and fully express their kedusha. And now they get themselves ready for what they're going to need to do at the time of Tchiyas HaMesim, right? Because again, during the time when the neshama is in the goof, it's holding itself back. During the time of Tchiyas HaMesim, that's going to be the full neshama coming in and a full zikuch happening and everything, in its fullest way. So the time in the Olam HaNeshamos when the neshama is up there, so it's like, it's expressing itself fully. It's rehabilitating itself. It's growing and gaining during this time period in order to be able to come down and re-inhabit the goof. Okay. Where did we stop? ומזדמן את יוסף למה שרואי שדס בזמן התחייה, עד שכשתושב הגוף בזמן הרואי, תוכל לפעול בו הפעולה נעושה לו, דהיינו הזיכוך שזכרנו, right? Until ultimately it's going to reach the state that it's fully rebuilt and fully shining and able to now re-inhabit the guf, who is also now fully broken down and fully prepared and ready to do to accept this big neshama into it. That's what happens in the meantime. Okay, let's finish this up. There's one more seif, and that'll be the end of Perek Gimel Be'ezras Hashem. Okay. So now it's going to explain that there's a difference between the two times that the neshama and the guf connect, right? There's one time that the neshama and guf connect when we come down here the first time, and there's another time that the neshama and the guf are going to connect, and that's by Tchiyas HaMesim, and it's going to tell us that these are two very, very different things. Ulam, again, Yud Gimel now, Perek Gimel, Chelek Aleph, Perek Gimel, Yud Gimel. V'ulam tzarech sheteda ki gam ata b'hikonis haneshama b'guf ha'uber אף על פי שלא כונסה עדיין שלמוס במעשיה, הנה מצד יקר וזהרה עצמי היה רואה שתיתן זיכוך גדול לחומר. Now, you should realize, right, he's saying, now, when a neshama comes in and inhabits a fetus, and it's, the first time that the neshama joins with the physical guf, so already, right, there's no averos, right, this guf, this body has done no averos, and this neshama should be able here to shine fully, right? הנה מצד יקר וזרע עצמי היה רואה שתיתן זיכוך גדול לחומר שיהיה יוצא מגדר המין האנושי. Right? The neshama already in the stage of a fetus, if the neshama would shine its full light, so that creature, that creation, whatever, would not be a person. Right? That would already be out of the category of a regular person, because a person means somebody with a guf and a neshama inside that is suppressed inside of it. If you would have a neshama that was fully shining through a person, so that's That's not us. Amnam Gzeirasi Yisbarach Koveshes Osa Umalemes Kocha Umimaetes Zahara. So Hashem, when the neshama comes down, Hashem turns down the dial, right? Let's say, you picture neshama as a dial up to 10, and that would be like, the full shining of the neshama, and it would just blast away all the guf and be mizakich the guf in one shot. So Hashem dials it down to 1.5, maybe in a big tzaddik up to 2 or something like that, right? But Hashem dials it down all the way and diminishes it. Yeah. He lowers its abilities and lowers its shine, so that it won't be able to just all of a sudden be mezakech this guf. Aval teshev shama lota ba'atzma. It has to sit over there like suppressed in itself, but also ashira mitzarich lafia kavana eliona. Only to whatever degree. Every person has the setting different according to what Hashem wants and expects and needs from that person in this world. Some people might have the neshamas dialed up really high. Sometimes that's already Hashem's cheshbon. That has nothing to do with us and our bechira and how many averos that we've done, etc. Everybody has a mission and a goal and a job over here, and based on that, Hashem sets the neshama dial exactly where it needs to be according to the kavanah elyona. Ufalas beguf ba'usva seder v'ashir nirtz mechachma yisbarach, and that's how much the neshama is going to affect the guf. So this is a very, very important yesod, and again a huge musar idea that we can never judge another person, right? What for this one person might be so obvious and not a nisayon, and it's so beneath me to fall to that, and for somebody else, their neshama might be dialed down way, way lower, or at least in this area or something like that, and the effect of their guf on their decision-making process is completely different than mine, and we can never judge another person, right? Hashem has everybody here for a job. Everybody's here for to get their tafkid done and to have their struggles and their battles, and in order to have that happen, right? So everybody's power between their guf and the neshama is going to be different, and we all have to do the best that we can with what we're given, right? Obviously. So that's what he's telling us over here, and that's all something we can't ask questions about. That's Hashira and Yirtzim Echachmas Yisbarach. That's Min Hashemayim, what every person's spiritual potential is. Okay, but then Vehine Kefi Maaseh Atovim She'osa V'Holechas Hayol Al Yispashet L'Zdar K'Moshe Kasavnu V'Zeh Yomegim Min Azikuch Laguf V'Amnam Lafi Agzera She'Bi'arnu L'Mala Lo Yitachin La'Ela Be'Yosa Ba'Olam HaNeshamos. Okay, so again, even if the biggest tzaddik is going to do all the mitzvahs and do as much as they can possibly do, that connection that started back in the womb, that connection between guf and neshama, that connection is only up to a certain point able to be mezakech, and that's only up to the point that Hashem dialed the neshama to. While those two are connected, that's the maximum that neshama can get to, right? However, I'm sorry. Yeah. However, once they separate, and again the guf goes down and the neshama goes up, and there Hashem dials it up to 10, right? Hashem, or according to our maisim, however high it'll go, whatever, 11, 12, whatever that, I don't know how those numbers are going to work at that point. Yeah. But when Hashem is going to dial it all the way up, so now our neshama is ready to come back down. Now the second time, right, as opposed to the first time, which happened when we were in the womb, the second time when the neshama is going to get together with the guf, lotis mait v'lotis alim. It's not going to dial down at all. It's going to remain in its full shine, its full, dialed up to 11. Elatikanes b'chol zarel v'chol kocha, with all its power and all its force. V'oz miyad tizakech es aguf ahi zikuch gadol v'lo yitzarech lo agidol ma'at ma'at shetzarech atel yeladim elo miyad b'shaito toyer bo miyad tizakech zikuch gadol. Again, saying very big things over here, right? The way that Hashem made it when the guf and the neshama joined together, a human has to go through a whole stage of gidol, starting as katnos and going through. And a lot have the kavanos of Pesach that we've been speaking about lately have to do with this whole idea that katnos and gadlos and all of these things. There's a whole process, and a person has to go through those stages of childhood and the neshama and the guf get used to each other over time, and the Yetzer Tov only kicks in at 13 to start affecting the body, and all these things, right? So all of this is a whole process. But the second time round, it's not going to happen at all. Lo yitztarich lo agidul ma'at ma'at shetzorich atil yoladim. We're not going to need that growth process. Ela miyad b'shayto toyerbo umiyad zakel zikul gadol. As soon as the neshama comes into the guf, it's going to make a huge, perfect zikuch. And this is not going to stop the fact that there's still more to go. There's still greater and greater aliyos to get together. In other words, he wants to say that we're going to continue going up and up and up forever. However, but we're already going to be at a great stage of godless from the beginning. It's not going to require katlus in order to get there. Okay, yeah, the Adam who yakar shemiyad v'gufo yikabel. What did I say? Aval einyan hu shemiyad b'vonashav v'guf Adam who yakar v'nale v'gufo yikabel miyad zikuch rishon v'yisalabo mikol mashahay kol yemei chayav varishonim. It's going to blast away like everything, and fill in all the tov and the or via zikuch ahu kifi kol ha'maisim hatovim sha'asakvar. All the mitzvahs that we ever did, now they're going to come and they're going to affect our guf the way that they need to, without all the ra, with all the averos taken away, and all the ulterior motives from all the mitzvahs taken away, and everything turning only to tov, 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 tov. Now it's going to come in and be mezakeh chaguf. V'yosim v'soga madrega shroilo lios bein azochim leharnos b'shleimos. And whatever madrega each individual achieves, that's where they're going to be when they are zocha to be over there in the time of shleimos. V'achar kach yisalu shneim iluyim acher iluyim. And then the guf and the neshama together are going to continue to go through elevation after elevation, according to what's fitting. Okay, so that's the end of Perek Gimel. Perek Dalet is very, very important. Perek Dalet is really, some say where people should start learning the Sefer over here. But we've basically finished now the story arc of life and death, how the whole concept of a neshama and a guf connecting, how they affect each other, how they disconnect, how that time of disconnect affects each one individually, and then how they are reconnected, how that reconnection is affecting of the guf. There, it's only the neshama that affects the guf. The guf has no effect any longer on the neshama at that point. It's only the neshama affecting the guf, and then how those two together are going to the olam va'ed, netzach netzachim, continue to grow. This is also just interesting to note that here the Ramchal is saying very clearly that olam haba, the ultimate olam haba that we talk about as olam, is still going to involve some thing that he's calling a guf. That is a big machlokes in the Rishonim, the Rishonim who learn not like that, and that there's going to be no again, even the guf that the Ramchal says over here does not at all resemble our guf. However, there's still such a thing called a guf. But there are the Rishonim who say not like that, and that olam haba is going to be completely without a guf. But al pi Kabbalah, according to Kabbalah, it's very clear that this is the process that the neshama and the guf go through. Okay, Mirza Hashem will continue next time with Perek Dalet.